Good evening, good people. So just as I was coming on, I've just discovered that Facebook just said to me that, oh, we've moved things around. Super annoying. They do this all the time. And I wish they had a way to notify people when they've made changes to pages. So hopefully I'm still where I'm supposed to be so that you guys can join. Good evening, good people. Thank you for finding me. I hope we're all good. Kelly, thank you for watching. Guys, if you put a comment or say hi in the comments box, at least I can greet you as you come on, as I often like to do. So guys, the only thing is, thank God the comments is good, thank God. Good evening, Evelyn, how are you doing? Thank you. Yeah, Kelly says she's ready. No time like the present. Hello, Anita again. Hi, F. Guys, as you come on, please share this because this is an important conversation. My darling Shell, how are you doing, my love? Welcome to Speak With Dilys this Sunday evening, the third episode of Speak With Dilys called He Said, She Said. Eric Boatin, thank you for being on here. Guys, do share. I'm very well, Evelyn. I'm really well. Patience, hi, how are you doing? Yes, I'm glad you found me. Guys, as you come on, just hit that share button. Rosemary, thank you for being on here as well. Guys, how are you feeling? As you come on, if you're feeling good, give me some hearts. If this is a topic that you feel could be quite emotional for you, give me the care emoji and put a comment in there. And, let's find out why. Hi, Princess. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. Paige says, I'm good. Great to be here again. Well, it's great to have you guys. It's always a blessing to have you guys. So, how are you feeling, guys? Are you feeling good? We are going to be speaking today on this third episode of Speak With Dilys called He Said, She Said. We are going to be talking about how childhood verbal abuse, how it has affected us in adulthood. And I think even stripping it back a little bit more, maybe even defining what it is. Because one thing that I did realize is that some things are so normalized that we don't even realize that it's wrong. And you'd be surprised at what can be normalized in the mind of a child that even in adulthood, they still hold on to that same belief. So going slightly off topic, but just to make a point. How many of you remember the Fugees with Lauryn Hill and what's his face? Oh gosh, you know who I mean. Wyclef Jean. Well, their manager, or I think one of the producers, was recently convicted of raping 6 of his daughters and having children with all of them. And when I was reading the story, one of the girls was saying that she looked to her dad to confirm if what he was doing was normal. And for him, yes, it was normal. And for that reason, because it was validated by her father, she felt her father having sex with her was normal. Why am I saying this? I'm literally just giving this example just to bring home the point that as children, when we're told things by our parents, it's gospel. It is just gospel because we just believe it because we're kids. So Lucas Monrose, thank you for joining. Gertrude, thank you for being on here as well. Guys, as you join, please do invite somebody. Don't be selfish. Let's have a wider conversation. So let me read to you what today's show is about. Okay. He said, she said. It's the third episode on Speak With Dilys. Words, they have the power to destroy lives and make lives. They can shape our very existence without us even knowing it. Often, we speak of sexual, emotional, and psychological abuse, but don't often speak about verbal abuse, which can set the foundation in the aforementioned. Many adults suffered this type of abuse as children, but due to how it was or is normalized, we aren't always aware that the harmful words that were spoken has had an effect on various parts of our lives. Scientific studies show that verbal abuse in a child is directly linked to anxiety and depression, can affect verbal IQ and even certain parts of the brain. An emotive topic that is bound to leave some of us feeling exposed or even bring back some painful memories, but medicine can only be poured into open wounds to start the healing process. So guys, that is what we're going to be speaking about tonight. Okay? So, Gloria, thank you for being on here. Amadoreen, thank you. Enam, thank you for being on here as well. Yes, and he says, heartbreaking. Gertrude, good evening to you once again. It is a big topic. But before we get into that, For those of you who don't know who I am, because, people do watch this on the replay, my name is Dilys. I'm the best-selling author of the book, Not This Widow. My first book was called Predator or Prince, How to Find the Man of Your Dreams, Not Your Nightmares. And basically was a book is a book that educates women on how to spot red flags in men who may be abusive in any way, whether it's emotionally, mentally, sexually, whatever. I am also an events host as well. I am a qualified and accredited life coach specializing in grief, relationship, marriage, and Christian coaching as well, or should I say, to name a few. Okay, there is a Speak With Dilys group where we do try to carry these conversations over so that you can connect with people who, maybe your stories kind of resonate with each other and you want to have a deeper conversation away from the Facebook Live. So those are the things that I do. I'm sure I've missed something else out. Yes, I'm also a public speaker as well. So if you have an event and you would like me to speak at your event, do let me know. Last but not least, on the 22nd of April, 2022, Speak With Dilys is going to be launched as a live show. Now, save the date. Details of how to purchase your tickets and where it's going to be held will be made known very, very shortly. So just save that date and put it in your diary. So you'll be the live audience. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. There are sponsorship packages, so do inbox me. And if you would like to advertise anything on the day, like for example, you have a business and you need a table or anything like that, do let me know and I can give you details for that as well. So that's all the boring stuff, because I'm kind of boring, out of the way. Let's read a few more comments and then we're going to get into this. Okay, Amma says, hello everyone. Faye, how are you doing? Even if the outfit suits you, thank you very much. I'm trying. I actually wore this to church, actually. Anita says, it can crush your self-confidence and take a lifetime to heal. You are not wrong. Okay, guys, I'm not going to keep you in suspense any longer. Guys, if you're on here and you haven't shared, please do so. Please invite people and let's have this convo. Okay, so let's start from here. Verbal abuse, what is it? And I just put down a little definition here because I think that it's easier for us to be able to connect with what we're speaking about if we can define it. Because as I said, this is a topic that some people on the surface may find it hard to relate to, primarily because it has been so normalized in some of our cultures. So basically, verbal abuse is a range of words, used to manipulate, intimidate, and maintain power and control over someone. Okay? These include insults, humiliation, and ridicule. Now I'm talking about parents here. The silent treatment and attempts to scare, isolate, and control. Verbal abuse results in emotional abuse. I'm going to read that again. Verbal abuse is a range of words used to manipulate, intimidate, and maintain power and control over someone. These include insults, humiliation, and ridicule, the silent treatment, attempts to scare, isolate, and control. Verbal abuse results in emotional abuse. Okay? Now, I'm going to read something else as well. The enduring pain of childhood verbal abuse, and this extract I got from Psychology Today. And it says, as yet unpublished research by Tisha shows that indeed exposure to verbal abuse affects certain areas of the brain. These areas are associated with changes in verbal IQ and symptoms of depression, disassociation, and anxiety. Okay, so before I come on here, I do read, I do my research. It's not just about personal experience or things that my clients have experienced that I just come and regurgitate. Because these topics, they are very important. They are, things that people have gone through that have changed the very essence of who we are. And I'm cramming everything into an hour or less than an hour. So let's really get into the zone here and see if we have been a victim of verbal abuse and how we can heal from it. Because like I said, the main challenge, I think for me, whilst I was researching this topic, is so many of our people, people from African descent or West Indian descent, or, are particularly susceptible to verbal abuse in childhood because it's part of our culture. And I know whenever I say things like this, people get really defensive. Do you know what? I don't care. because this is a time, I feel that even for me as a 50-year-old woman, that it's time to not only get real, but to get healed. Done with wearing the mask, done with, pretending everything is all fine, done with just living. I want to live my best life. And I know when we use that phrase, people just look at it like, oh, you're going to be driving in some car, you're going to be just partying and swigging champagne. No, that's not your best life. I mean your best life where your spirit, body, mind, and soul are one. Where you are centered in a way that the winds of life can blow, and you're so centered that you can remember and recollect things from your past and it doesn't shake you. That's what I mean by living your best life. And very few of us are living that life. Myself included. I am on a healing journey myself. As I was doing my research, there were things that came to my mind that I thought, right, so that's why you do this and that's why you do that. And I'm not ashamed to say. And this is not about vilifying any parents. This is not about finger pointing. It's about us being in a space that is safe, that is honest, that is real, that enables us to speak our truth and heal from it. Not to pretend, okay? So that the background as to why I felt this was necessary is because of the effect that these words have had on us and even our relationships. And like I said, I'm going through my own emotional journey. So I think it's only fair that, there is some transparency on my side or from my end, and hopefully it will help you to articulate, your thoughts and your emotions in the interim. If that is fair, can I get some hearts, please? Is it fair that I share some of my own story so that you don't think that you're strange, so that I can bring the point home of what, emotional abuse, what it looks like? And like I said, it's not to vilify or to embarrass any parents, not to embarrass my parents or your parents or people in authority. If you know better, you do better. So that's where we are. So let me just have a bit of water. So what part does culture play in verbal abuse? And I will give you my recollection. And one of the things that stood out for me when I was doing my reading and preparing for today was in Ghana. I don't know what it's like in other places, but the word or the phrase hair very often precedes the name of a child. Hair Ajwa, hair Mary, hair Jackie, hair John, hair Peter. That's how we are called. The aggression behind the words. You remember, part of the definition of verbal abuse spoke about humiliation and intimidation. When an adult calls a child, and before their name is called is hair, and you didn't have to, necessarily do anything for that to happen, just to be sent to go and get, to be sent on an errand. Before you're even sent on that, you're given the instruction on what to do is, hey, go and bring me my blah, blah, blah. Hey, go and... So immediately there is that fear because you don't know what that hair actually means. So hair is like the same as saying, hey, John, hey, Mary, hey, this. And you're on tenterhooks. I remember being in Ghana a long time ago when my son was about 3 or coming up to 3. And somebody made the mistake of calling my child, hey, oh my goodness. Because I've always been a psycho parent. And I had to ask the person that when I was pushing Omar out and I went to name my child, his name was not, his first name was not Hair and his second name Omar. I said, if you can't call my child properly, don't call my child. I recognized that was not appropriate, and I didn't want my child to get used to being called in that very intimidating and frightening way. But you see, because it's so normal, I am sure that there are people from my community watching this thinking, oh, but that's nothing. But for me, it was something. No child I'm sure, liked being called hair. Hair, come here. Hair, do this. Hair, do that. The aggression, all it does is promote fear, it intimidates, and it rocks our self-esteem. It rocks our self-esteem. It's a poor way to communicate. In fact, it's a lazy way to communicate. And if you look at it in a wider sense, most people who behave that way back home, look at how they treat their house helps. Disrespectfully, very intimidating, very dismissive. They can't even use the words please and thank you. They are all forms of poor communication and verbal abuse. It's just there to promote, as somebody said, fear and panic. Let me quickly read some of your comments. Let's see. Hi, Amadorine. Hello. Thank you, Lucas, for the compliment. Monica Martini, how are you doing? Thank you for being on here. Eunice, thank you so much for being on here. Said Ari, blessings everyone. Ari, sister. Rosemary, thank you. Thank you so much. This blazer, thank you. I can't even remember where I got it from, but trust me, it's old. When it was bought, I could kind of do it up a bit more than I can now, but we won't talk about that. That's a whole other show. Rosemary, thank you very much for sharing. And thank you as well, Eunice and Denise. Thank you so much for being on here, sis. We'll share you in my group. The Live and Life group. Thank you so much. Afalabi, thank you as well. Kelly says, I've waited a lifetime for an apology from my mother, but she will never, and I have to come to terms that she will go to her grave with her verbal abuse and silent treatment from the age of 3 till I left home at 16. I'm going to come to that, Kelly. I'm going to speak about that, about what you've just asked, and about silent treatment as well. And as you can see, part of verbal abuse, silent treatment sits under that. Evans, how are you doing? I hope you're very well. Shireen, thank you for being on here. Shireen says, just joining, sounds like I've missed quite a bit. Not too much. We're talking about how childhood verbal abuse affects us in our adulthood, recognizing what it is and how we can heal from it. Vicky Addo, thank you for being on here. Eric says, it kills your confidence and very tough to get rid of. It does indeed. Shirley Ann, thank you for being on here, my dear. Let's see who else is on here. Beth, how are you doing? Sass, thank you for being on here, my dear sister from the States. And he says, I've forgiven, but it's much harder to forget and to heal. It is indeed. Shireen says, I struggle with forgiveness. I am going to do a show on forgiveness, and I think it's probably long overdue because it's a theme that keeps popping up in, I think, the last 3 episodes or so that I've done. Hi, Helena. Thank you for being on here, and Kabu as well. Guys, I'm going to get back to saying hi to you because there's a lot of you on here. Please do share, those who haven't shared. And once you do share, please put a comment in there so I can acknowledge your support for today's show. Okay, so we've spoken about what verbal abuse is. And I've given you some examples and how culture has played a big part in that. Verbal abuse essentially is used to control behavior and to manipulate. It is used to put you in your place and for you not to get above your station. It is also something that is used as a projection tool. So a lot of times the person themselves have got their own issues, but somehow use words on a child to project what they themselves are feeling. You are so useless. Nobody loves you. I don't even know why I gave birth to you. They are things that they themselves experience. Am I saying that they have an excuse? I'm not. What I'm doing is giving an explanation so that you can understand where some of it came from. Because when people use words that are damaging and they use words that are crushing, what happens to a child? It's internalized. And children believe anything that they're told. That's what children do. We hang on to every word our parents tell us. Now, depending on when that verbal abuse starts, is indicative of how deep that verbal abuse, the effect it's going to have on us and how long for. So as somebody said, from the age of 3, they are your formative years. From the age of 3 to be told anything negative is crushing, because children do not have the emotional and mental capacity to process and to be able to differentiate between fact and fiction. So if you tell a child As for you, you're so stupid. I don't know why you're here. You're so thick. Can you not do anything right? That child begins to have an internal conversation with themselves to say, not why can't I do anything right in a rhetorical way. They're actually saying, why can't I do anything right, as a statement of fact? Because now, when those words that have been spoken, because words are spirit and they are life, because they are also seeds, they take seed in the life of a child and they begin to bear fruit. What is the fruit of negative words? It's the lack of confidence. It is the depression. It's the anxiety. It's the self-doubt. It's the sometimes even overachieving, because you're trying to forget the noise of I'm so useless, so I'm going to prove that I'm not useless. And you work harder than you need to constantly prove to people that you are not useless. So some of our behaviors that we exhibit in our adulthood can be traced to the way in which we were spoken to as children. So for example, my daughter said to me yesterday, I think she asked me, what I was going to be speaking about today. Now my daughter is very dark, very, very dark skin, beautiful girl. And she said to me, Mummy, when I was growing up, you always complimented me on my complexion. I said, yeah, I did. You know why? Because I knew that she was coming into a world where she would be told that because she was very dark, that she wasn't beautiful and that she wasn't enough. And I knew that as a parent, I wanted, and what is important for us parents to do, is to get our positive words into our children before the world does. Let me show you how the dynamics works when you do this. When you are the first to say something positive to your child, every other voice is a counterfeit. Every other voice has to come and challenge that which the parent decreed and declared over their child. So when I tell my daughter that she is beautiful and her complexion is lovely, and then someone else says, oh, you're really ugly, you're so dark, but Mummy said, is that true? Then they go through a process to now debunk that which they have been told. Provided I continue my stance of you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, that word has to come on the defensive, as opposed to my word as a parent. Flip it around. You're so ugly. Your color is disgusting. Why are you not light-skinned? Somebody out there tells her, but you're beautiful. And she's thinking, no, I'm not, because Mummy said. That's how it works. And that's when we begin to shape the personality and the character of a child, such that when they become, or we, because I'm not exempt from this, when we become adults, we are challenged in being able to fulfill our destiny and walk in our calling, because the words that were spoken to us as children have shaped our lives. Where we've been told that we were not good enough, that we were not pretty. I mean, and like I said, a lot of this is cultural. So again, in Ghana, guys, please share this if you're watching. If you haven't shared it, please share. For example, where I come from, you don't just tell a child off. You have to now add, and I'm going back to when I was a child. I am hoping, which actually let me not lie, because I know it hasn't changed. You can't just tell a child off and say, why did you break that glass? You need to be more careful. It will start with, fool, are you so stupid? Don't you know how to hold a glass? Don't you know how to hold a glass? Every normal person just picks up a glass and put you alone. You have to take a glass and break it. What's wrong with you? Move, you're just so stupid. That's normally how the conversation goes. If you can relate to what I'm saying to you, or it sounds familiar, let's keep it real tonight. Let's keep it real. So that child learns a few lessons there. That one, you are not allowed to make mistakes. Because unless a child picked up a glass and threw it, it was an accident. So understand that you are not allowed to make a mistake. Number two, it means when you make a mistake, the normal reaction is that you should be berated for it. What happens? It fuels a spirit of dishonesty in the child. Why? Because to admit that you broke the glass. No. What we do is we will gather the pieces of the glass and make sure that the broken pieces have been thrown away. So when they call you, hey, where's the glass? Who was seeing my glass? I had 6 glasses, now there's only 5. Where's the glass? Mummy, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. Because you know that admission leads to more insults and punishment. So we learn, one of the effects of this verbal abuse is we learn to be dishonest very, very early on in life. So when we are in our workplaces, when we are in relationships and something goes wrong, what do? We tend to gather the pieces of the glass and sweep it under the carpet so that it's not found. And we put our hands behind our back and we say, no, I don't know where it is. I don't know what happened. And that's what we learn. That's what we learn. So verbal abuse very much was used as a form of discipline. Because those words, rather than just correct and say, don't be clumsy, or, try not to be too clumsy. When you're doing this, pay attention, and leave it. No. Or a part of verbal abuse is the silent treatment, where you're just ignored. And again, it's a very cultural thing. A lot of African men do this. A lot of African men do this to their wives or to their girlfriends. It's a very natural default thing that I'm just not going to speak to you. And it is a form of control, and it is a form of verbal abuse because, being verbal is not just about using words. The non-use of words is verbal abuse. But all these things are normalized. You know why? Because we have not been taught to communicate effectively. We've not been taught to be able to use words positively. So from very, very early on, our words are very aggressive and very damaging without us realizing. 1 second. I'm going to read some comments. Anointed Rich, thank you for being here. Eliza Adu, thank you for being on here as well. And guys, do, type in names of people that you want to join this conversation, as some of you are already doing. That would be great. Temi Tokpa, how are you doing? Thank you, Anointed Rich. Thank you so much. And yes, it does promote fear and panic. Beth says, I'm with you on the hey or anything like that, wherever you are in this world. Yep. Anita says, it's true, Dilys. Unfortunately, some of us have unwittingly adopted the very same behaviors. Yes, we have. And this is why I was very careful to say in the beginning that it's not about embarrassing people and it's not about pointing fingers, but it's about us being able to recognize, we can only do better when we know better. Something like hair, it's so normal where I come from. So normal. And the other thing, let me read some more comments, and there's something else I'm going to come on to as well, because it's really important. And he says, it's true, Dilys. Unfortunately, yes, I've read that. William, thank you for being on here again. Good to be here tonight once again. Thank you, Anointed Rich. Amadorine says, I believe we are victims and abusers of verbal abuse. However, I have now realized that it is a cycle of lack of knowledge and difficulties in communicating. I have now grown and developed different ways to communicate and speak to my children and everyone around me. God bless you. And this is what I'm saying. It is about working with the knowledge that we had. Now that we are gaining greater knowledge, we can change it. So there's no point me coming on here and saying, yes, as a child, this happened. It's not helpful. And I keep saying that the conversation that we have, they are so sensitive that it cannot be, there isn't any space for unkindness or blame. We just have to say, look, this is what happened and this is what we want to do to make it better. Beth says, someone asked me one time how we got our kids to say please and thank you. Joe and I say these to each other all the time. Joe and I say this to each other all the time without even thinking. I think that's why Xavier and Sky do it. Oh, the lovely names. Yeah, and again, it's true. And that's a very good point, because children also look at how parents communicate with each other. Ashanti Am says, great conversation, Dilys. I love the blazer. Thank you. Can you please share or pin the private Facebook group? Guys, Anita, if you wouldn't mind, can you pin the Facebook group, the Speak With Dilys Facebook group as well, so that people can join that as well. And it says some use the same aggressive tones of their parents. Indeed, they do. Cheryl says, my parents won't be saying sorry for their abuse either. To be honest, an apology would never cut it. Hand yourself into the police if you're that sorry. I hear you. Cheryl's got a whole, other story on that. Enam says, I can so much relate to the topic and many of the experiences you are referring to. I'm very much aware of my broken upbringing, packed with verbal abuse, and I unconsciously do similar to my children once a while. What I do is being very conscious about this with my kids. The issue is that they affect us so much that we need to pay attention to we don't do it to our kids. It's a terrible issue. I hear you. Regina Andam, thank you for being here. Cheryl says, good evening to you. Hey, Embassy Parker, say, how you doing, big sis? Lovely to have you on here. We're talking about verbal abuse, the abuse that we faced in childhood and how it affects us in our adulthood as well. Guys, please share this video. William says, it's a double-edged sword. It can kill your spirit or help you build character. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Verbal abuse in infancy can be the tonic one needs for life. I completely disagree. It's a very damaging thing. It does not help you in any way, shape or form. That's why the word abuse is attached to it. When we say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, it depends on what was trying to kill you. And as a child, being verbally abused, there is nothing positive about it. And I think that message is really important because for some of us that didn't know better, i.e. our parents, who were very verbally abusive, scientifically, it affects your brain. And I'm going to read something here. There is nothing positive about verbal abuse. Please let us be very aware of that, because the words that we use to tear down, we can use different words to build up. I don't believe that a child who is told you're useless, you never amount to anything, just because he becomes the next, millionaire. Let me tell you what happens. The dynamics of how such people work is they are overachievers. They achieve things and they are never satisfied. Because there's two things that they're trying to do. Please that parent and also prove something to themselves. And until you go on a healing journey, you will attain neither. So if you're a parent and you feel by saying to your child that's overweight, you're fat, you need to lose some weight, but it somehow is going to inspire them to now go on a diet, no. What you do is you crush their spirit, they feel more and more unattractive, and you push them into the arms of people that are going to abuse them further. Because when children do not feel loved and they go looking for love, believe you me, they never find it in the right place. So as a parent, it is crucial that the words you use on your children are encouraging and they are uplifting. That when the whole world is telling them that they're not good enough, they can come home and know that they are more than enough. It's really important. The other part that I wanted to make mention of, again, I will go back to some of the things that are said in my culture. And, things I heard at home, where your physical attributes are used to insult. So, for example, one of the things that, those of you that are Ghanaian, that, I'm sure you heard countless times, meaning look at that person's face, look at his face, look at her face, look at her ugly face, look at his ugly face. They are common. They are like common things that are said. I don't believe that there's any Ghanaian, there are a few Ghanaian kids that didn't hear that. Now, again, I was very, very skinny as a child, like real skinny. Skinny to the point where if I actually I still have, as much as I'm not skinny now, the back of my neck is really bony. And I remember my mum would say to me that look at the back of my neck as bony as a herring. Herring's got lots of bones in it. Or I would be told that, and you see, and this is what I'm saying, that as children, how we speak is really important. By nature, I'm somebody that I just like to help. That's me. So if, for example, you're having a party, I will be the the chick in the kitchen that will start washing up and clearing up, because I'm just thinking, oh gosh, I can just imagine after the party, no one wants to clear up. So let me do for that person what I would wish someone would do for me if I was really tired. And I will go and clean up and what have you. Now, as a child, when I exhibited some of those traits, I would be told off for trying to be too grown up and thinking that I know everything. Go and sit down. So it made me, I remember, this only came to me when I was preparing for this. And it made me realize how rejection affects me with people whom I care a lot about. If it's just a regular whatever, no problem. But the moment it's somebody that I really love or I hold in really high esteem, then that attitude shakes me. Thank God for God that I'm going through that healing journey, because I'm recognizing. And you see, as a child, it's so easy to be crushed. You want to please, I'm going to do this for mommy. Why did you do that? Immediately, you go into yourself and you recoil. So what do? You either say to yourself, well, I'm not going to help again, or you try even harder. It's one or the other. And that's why I said there is nothing positive about verbal abuse. And you see, and when you go back to the definition about control, manipulation, aggression, sometimes we are so aggressive in our speech. And I believe as parents, we've all done it. It becomes abuse when it's consistent. I'm not talking about the one time that you told your child off, or once every 5 years that your child got a bit, I'm talking when it's consistent. When it becomes a natural mode of communication that you received as a child. Because what it does is, you see, what we must not do, and what we tend to do, is confuse verbal abuse with discipline. It is not discipline. Discipline is where you teach a child to act differently if they are presented with the same set of circumstances. That is discipline. To say, right, why did you do X? Okay, you did X. You're not supposed to do this. This is what do you think you should do? I'll give you an example. My son stayed with my parents for some time, many, many years, but he's a big boy now. And anytime he did something wrong, or my mum would report him to me, I would ask my son what happened. It annoyed my mother no end. And she said to me, why is it when I tell you that Omar has done something, you will go and ask him? I said, I have to ask him. Why do I have to ask him? I said, I have to ask him because even a murderer, somebody who has taken a life, gets their day in court. And if my son hasn't killed anybody, if you have reported him to me, I must be able to ask him what happened. Because I want him, if he has done something wrong, when he's recounting his behavior, I want him at that point for responsibility to start to take place. When you know better, you do better. Now, culturally, the normal thing to happen is, your grandmother told me that you did that. Are you stupid? Why did you do that? Da, 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 and you just get blasted. You're not given your day in court. So what we teach our children is that they are never allowed to have a voice. It is damaging and it is soul crushing. But because I knew what I went through as a child, I personally was not going to perpetuate that onto my child. That when something goes wrong, you're not allowed to speak because it's not respectful. You're not allowed to, it's deemed as answering back. You're being termed as being insolent, disrespectful, not knowing your place. Children are seen and not heard. So you're there, quiet. You're being blasted for something that you're totally innocent of. Totally innocent, but you cannot speak. I'm going to share something. And like I said, I'm going to be transparent. When I was 16, I was very ill. I had a kidney infection. I was on about 40 tablets or so a day. No, 24. Because it was 8 tablets in the morning, afternoon, evening. I was very ill. My whole skin had, broken out and what have you. And a family friend had needed to come by the house. I was asleep. And we had an uncle that used to, actually it was my mum's uncle that used to stay with us. And he was an interesting character. He used to take great pleasure and delight in reporting us to our parents, very rarely telling the truth. And on one such occasion, as I said, I was ill, I was sleeping, and somebody had to come by the house for me to give the person a message. So I gave this person a message, and it just so happened that I looked at the time. So they came in it was about 8 o'clock, by 10 past they were gone. So this relative of ours had passed it because, the way the living room was, you can see from the outside looking in. So we were in the living room. And they had gone out, they were outside. I think they'd gone to fill up the reservoir or something. That was that. And, I went back to bed. A few hours later, I hear my name being screamed. My mum was mad. She called me. And she said, "What time did so-and-so leave the house?" I was confused because, like I said, one, I was ill too. I'd just woken up. And I said, "About 10 past. She said, "No, that's not true." Because the relative that had been in the house told my mother that I was in a room with this man or this boy for hours. He doesn't know when he left. And he knew he was lying. Because in our culture, once an adult says something, it's gospel. There's nothing like, "My daughter wouldn't, this is not," no. And I remember just feeling utterly confused, crushed. It was horrible. It took days. Hold on. I don't think I ever got to explain what happened till I was an adult. Some years back. But I can't remember after that incident. All I could just do was profess my innocence. And this same person sat there and said, "Oh, we're family." There were some very toxic adults in our midst. And I'm saying to you, what I was subjected to just because somebody had said. But you see, communication when it comes to this whole issue of how we speak to children has to be a two-way street. If we speak to children nicely or we speak to children well, they should be able to respond. We have to develop those relationships with our own children so that they can express themselves. That's the reason why when you come and report my son to me or my daughter, I will ask what happened. I won't immediately say, "What? They did this." They wanted to put my daughter on a detention the other day. I said, "Let the teacher call me and explain to me, because what you're saying to me don't make no damn sense." I'm still waiting for that phone call. But again, culturally, if your teacher says something, it's gospel. It's just the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You're not allowed to challenge it. Not on my watch. So the way we speak to our children, it erodes the self-esteem. Or let me come back to us. The way we were spoken to, it eroded our self-esteem. And it fostered hatred in some of us for our parents. Or it fostered very negative emotions towards our parents because of the things that were said. And you see, the first thing really is to admit that it happened. For as long as we go around pretending that, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, it didn't really happen. Oh, it's not," we're not going to be able to heal from it. And I know why we do this, because sometimes we downplay it so that we can cope with it. Because it's like, man, if I go back in time and I go through some of the things that I was told, I don't think I would be able to cope. Now, for example, when Florida came on the other live just before coming on here, I don't know if Florida's watching, where she said she's lost her dad. And she is hurting from the verbal abuse that she suffered. How do you get through that? Where you can't even confront the person and say, "This is what you made." Because 99.9% of us are products of how we were spoken to as children. Don't get it twisted. 99.9%. either how we were treated and how we were spoken to. We are the product of those words. This is who we are. So if we don't come to a place where we say, right, Dilys, you have got an issue with being misunderstood by people you really love and value, you need to go back and find out where that thing came from. You need to go and address that, and you need to heal from that. Or you're overachieving because you were consistently told that you would amount to nothing. And now that you have ticked every box of everything you wanted to achieve, you finished secondary school well, you got your degree, you got your master's, maybe got your PhD, you're working your ideal job, you have a successful business, but you are not happy. You know that you are not happy. You still look down on yourself when nobody else is watching. You still feel that you are useless and you will amount to nothing. So you keep on pushing and trying to achieve more. You are a product of what you were told in your childhood. Admit it and start to heal from it. Admit it and start to heal from it. Don't make excuses for it. It was wrong and it should never have happened, but it did. And you are a product of it. The poor relationships you are in, you are a product of it. The kind of, ways in which you are spoken to, how you are manifesting in your marriage, your divorce is as a result of it. That relationship that you're in, that the words you're being, that are being spoken over your life is a reminder of it. It is validating it. And we have to come to a place where we say, you know what? Let's see whether what I was told was actually true. Because the verbal abuse that we suffered as children shapes our identity and destroys our self-esteem. It does not make us believe that we can be who we want to be. Because all we do is we achieve on the outside. Emotionally, what's going on is a completely different kettle of fish. And you see, we remember negative words more than we do positive. Because that's how human nature works. We find that, look, let me give you an example. Some of you can't even take a compliment. Oh, you look lovely, I like your hair. Oh, no, it looks rubbish. Go and check how you were spoken to as a child. If you are somebody that was built up and somebody that was valued verbally, you'd be like, oh, thank you very much, God bless you. Oh, that's really nice of you to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As opposed to, no, this jacket's, no, I don't know. No, it's fine. No, it's just old. And quickly rush to change the subject. I see you. Where do you think it came from? The words that you were told as a child. Look at this one's body. Look at your legs. Your legs are like two matchsticks. What happens? You never show your legs. You never show your legs. Because those words that were spoken has made you despise certain parts of your body because it was used as a point of insult in your childhood. So when that man meets you and says, oh, you've got the most beautiful pair of legs, my legs, they're terrible. Because that's what's in your psyche. That's what you've been told. You've been brainwashed to believe you're less than when you're more than enough. More than enough. Verbal abuse, it just aids and abets abusive relationships. It affects the family dynamics. Especially when you are raised in a family where you are being verbally abused and you have a sibling that is being praised constantly. Where you have parents that pit one up against the other by using verbal abuse as a tool to manipulate and control and harass and intimidate. If you're the one on the receiving end, chances are there are very negative emotions that you feel towards that sibling that was getting all the praise. As for you, you're useless. Why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your sister? You see how your sister's achieving? You see your sister? You see your brother? And look at you. Look at you. You see how your sister is pretty? Look at you. You're so fat. All you do is eat and eat. Look at you. You're so dumb. See how intelligent your brother is. Look at how well he's doing. I see your school report and this is the nonsense that you give me. Why are you so untidy? Can you see how neat your sister is? Please talk to me. Have we not heard these things before? Guys, if what I'm saying is true, please share. Please share this video. Because so many of us have witnessed or gone through this very experience And it is killing us. And it is killing us. It is not a unique or a special experience in the sense that a one-off. If we were brought up in a home even where we had step siblings, another rife atmosphere to be verbally abused. Oh my goodness. When you have that step parent that just hates your guts, loves their own children, but hates you, and you're being abused from head to toe, how useless you are, how your father doesn't really love you because he has better children. Come on now, talk to me. And if you have gone through that and you haven't consciously gone through a process of admission and healing, do not tell me that it has not had an impact in your adulthood. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Because words, they say smoking kills, so do words. Words can kill. Because out of our mouth, our words is spirit and it is life. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Those that speak will eat of its fruit. What comes out of our mouth can kill. But what comes out of our mouth can also build. And I hope tonight that the things that I am saying concerning this issue is building you up. Yes, I know it's going to be painful, having to look back and think back to, oh gosh, I thought I left that behind. I don't even want to think of it. So that when you think of it in the future, it doesn't have any power over you. Because let me tell you something. When those words take seed and they are in your psyche, they're here, they're in your soul, and someone says something even remotely similar, that spirit just comes alive and it takes control over you. And that's where your self-esteem, your self-confidence, the love of self and what you've built up comes crashing down. And it's so easy to unpick. So easy. So there's something that I wanted to read here. It talks about parents, where you have a good parent and a bad parent. It's funny how I spoke about, step parents, how you've got like the good cop, bad cop. And this is a piece that I got from, I think it was Psychology Today. And it says here, good and bad. It's called John Gottman on positive and negative exchanges between spouses put the ratio at 5-1, meaning if you hear 5 good things, you need to hear 5 good things to be able to deal with the one bad thing that you were told. So if you were told you're so stupid, you need to hear you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're loved, you're great, and you're going to be the next best thing since sliced bread before it can dilute the you're so stupid. It doesn't erase, it dilutes, it challenges. It says here, meaning it takes 5 good things or exchanges to begin to lessen the impact of one bad one. I didn't even finish reading it and look what came out of my mouth. That doesn't include blotting out the memory of the negative event. By the way, those memories are tenacious. You hear that? Verbal abuse and physical abuse. And I hear a lot of people say that verbal abuse is worse. It's a fallacy. And I'll tell you why. Scientifically proven. It says, and let me see who did this study. It's called The Close Connection Between Physical and Emotional Pain. Now it says here, it's clear that humans have long intuited that there's a connection between physical and emotional pain. It's reflected in our language. We describe our hearts as being broken. We say we are emotionally bruised or cut to the quick. Once again, science shows that this connection is more literal than metaphorical. Yeah? Studies demonstrate that the circuitry of physical and emotional pain are one and the same. Studies demonstrate, I'm talking science here, not my experience, not my opinion. Studies demonstrate that the circuitry for physical and emotional pain are one and the same. An experiment by Naomi L. Eisenberger showed that social rejection activated the same neural circuitry as physical pain. The same. Yes? In a more expansive way, Ethan Cross and his colleagues demonstrated the complexity of this connection in an experiment that used MRI scanning, yes, to see what areas of the brain lit up when individuals who'd recently experienced being left by a lover viewed a photograph of their ex, and when the noxious amount of heat was applied to the forearm. Guess what? The same neural circuitry was involved. Social rejection hurts, literally. And verbal abuse in social rejection expressed in language. And it says here, the same neural circuitry was involved. Social rejection hurts, literally. And verbal abuse is social rejection expressed in language. Let me read that properly. Verbal abuse is social rejection expressed in language. Okay, now I've got 3 minutes. Let me read some of your comments. I equate Bruce, thank you for being on here. Oh, Denise says, that kind of behavior is passed on from generation to generation. It's up to us to change the status quo. Absolutely. Yemisi says, so deep. Sis, Joyce Asantua, thank you for being on here. Anointed Rich said, that's right. Kelly Harris says, I was told I was ugly and should have been flushed down the drain as I looked like my father. That's another thing. And I'm so sorry that you had that experience. Again, a lot of us women, when we choose to have children with men who either disappoint us or the relationship goes bad, we take it out on our children. And it's another extremely powerfully dangerous experience for children to go through, where they are hated. It's normally the women that do this, that they are hated by their mother because they remind them, because they remind them of their former partner. It's so damaging. I mean, my goodness, my son is a direct replica of his dad. And I can't, you see, we're all wired differently, but it's something that a lot of women are very, very guilty of, where because the relationship has broken down, they were disappointed or whatever, they take it out on the children. And the verbal abuse is dangerous. Really, really dangerous. And I'm really sorry that has been your experience. And I'm hoping, and when I get onto, I always have my conclusion part, and is where we talk about more the solution in how we are able to combat and deal with these things. Caroline Pedro, thank you very much for being on here. Okay, thank you for sharing, Anointed Rich. Thank you so much. Shell says, I don't remember any positive talk from my parents, and yet I always tried to behave myself, but I was always in the wrong. And that's what I was saying. As a child, our natural instinct is to please. Why? Because the love that we have as children is unconditional. Parents don't always have unconditional love. We as children have unconditional love because we see our parents as heroes. So we constantly and consistently want to please. So when in our quest to please, because we feel that once we please we'll be more lovable, when that rejection comes in the form of verbal abuse, it is soul crushing. Think of it even as adults. You're with your husband or you're with your wife or with your partner, whatever. And you've taken your time to cook a lovely meal. You've got yourself looking whatever because you just want that special something. And they come in and they're like, why are you looking like that? And they laugh. And they're like, this food, I don't really like it. Even as an adult, just think for a moment what effect that will have on you emotionally and psychologically. How is that going to hurt? How is that going to crush you? Would you be, willing to repeat the experience the very next day? No, you wouldn't. And that's as an adult, where you are able to process, or maybe he's had a hard day, or maybe he's just an arsehole, or, maybe this, maybe that, where you can make excuses. Children don't know how to make excuses. We don't have the mental capacity for that. All we do is take things literally. You're stupid. So a child believes that they are stupid. They don't have the mental maturity to be able to say, Mummy's just in a bad mood. Daddy is just in a bad mood. I know I'm not stupid. I know that I'm clever. And no, it doesn't work like that. You know it doesn't work like that because when you were going through it, that's not what you thought. Inside you felt, yeah, I am stupid, or I must be stupid. So when somebody completely unconnected to your parents So you're so stupid. Those words cut that bit deeper. They cut that bit deeper. A lot of our men are manifesting their insecurities because of how they were brought up and the things they were told. So when you innocently, maybe you're having, a disagreement and you use words like, don't be silly, hey, or an African man, lie, or hell will break loose. Oh, are you calling me a fool? I'm telling you, or hell will break loose. Because again, in our cultures, I said, growing up, are you stupid? Are you stupid? Are you dumb? What's wrong with you? They are natural things that are spoken over us. So when we come into adulthood and we hear those words in any capacity, we're taken back to being 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age. And all we can see are those negative things that were spoken over us, that have shaped us, where we ourselves sometimes, if we don't catch the revelation quickly, are not nice people. In the way we speak to people, we're not nice. Silent treatment, serious weapon. Serious weapon for a child. You got a child and you just don't speak to the child because you're angry, upset. You're not going to talk to them. I had it. It's tough. So then you go into that mode of wanting to please more because you want to be noticed. It's like, why am I being ignored? I'm sorry, I'm remorseful, but why am I sharing these things? I'm sharing these things because it's important. I'm sharing these things because I want us to be able to come off this live, go away and have a think and think, you know what? I can relate to what Dilys said. I went through it. I also want you to be able to see what healing looks like. Don't ever deceive yourself that Dilys comes on here because she is the epitome of perfection. And I had, I'd like dropped from heaven and I've been walking in heaven ever since. No, I have not. I'm just showing you what healing looks like. Let me read some of your comments. And he says, well said, every other voice is a counterfeit. It absolutely is. Faustina, thank you for being on here. And I said, well nailed, thank you very much. Nane Freya says, this topic is timely, praise God. Beth says, I have shared, thank you so much for that. Julie Odunlami, thank you for being here. If you are here, Shireen, thank you for inviting her. Nana says, I hope the topic brings healing to lots of people. I hope so too. Nana Freya says, very true, I can relate. Yemisi Parker Osei says, I remember being criticized about my curvy figure as a child. Psychologically, it stayed with me. It's taken me years to wipe that out of my head. I can confirm that because my sister's got a banging body. Like, she's got the kind of body, and sis, I know you're shy, but I'm going to say it anyway. She's got the kind of body that women are basically, some are losing their lives for today. Yeah? That's why she's my sister, because we've got we're like this. Yeah? I remember saying to her, but sis, your body is amazing. And it was like, nope. And I'm glad you said it, because when I was speaking about it before, you're one of the people that I had in my mind. My mum was very complimentary. Oh, my daughter is very beautiful, very this, but did you hear what I was saying before? You would need to hear 5 positive compliments to neutralize the one bad one. So when I've been told how the back of my neck looks like a herring and I'm so skinny and this, that, and the other, but I'm so beautiful and I'm such a star, I'm still worrying about my neck back. I'm still worrying about that. So what we say to our kids is so powerful, so powerful. Shireen says, yep, my dad was always telling me I was stupid. Well, you're not stupid. And let me get there. I will get there in a minute. Amadori says, so embarrassing. My daughter said, Mummy, that's you. You know what, Amma, like I said, you know what, when you know better, you can do better. This issue of how we speak to our children with aggression and, it's because we don't know better. And it is a generational curse that we can break. That's how we were brought up. And why do you think I started by saying it was normalized? It was normalized. Calling a child hair is normal. It is normal. I don't believe that there is anybody that I know of that has ever got on social media to talk about that one phrase, hair. It was normal. But if you're embarrassed, let that embarrassment last for just a minute. Because what you're getting tonight is information. When you apply it, you get wisdom. Yeah? So, God bless you for being so honest. But like I said, I'm certainly not pointing any fingers. This is a safe space for us to just learn and do better. Denise said, and this is where mental health issues start from, anxiety, etc. You're absolutely right. It does say that verbal abuse results in depression, anxiety, and even affects certain parts of the brain. This is science. This is not an opinion. Shireen says, and then they call you a liar and want to beat you. Exactly. It then goes into the emotional and the physical abuse. Beth says, yes, and dishonest with ourselves too. Absolutely. Sherelle Corbin-Jones says, a lot of adults are still stained from their past, but I think in time we can get healing or counselling so we do not pass this on to the future generations. You are absolutely right. Anissa says, thanks, Anointed Rich. I don't know what that was about. Beth says, it takes a long time to cut through it and know yourself. It really does. It really does. I think that's Tetla. Thank you for joining. I haven't seen that name before. So if you are joining for the first time, I hope you are enjoying it and that we see you next week, Sunday at 8 o'clock. Mami Bema, thank you for being on here. Beth said, my mother did it to me. Anita says, ignoring someone also constitutes emotional and psychological abuse too, and verbal. It also comes under verbal abuse. Princess said, our words to our children as parents are more powerful than we ever know. The way we acknowledge their mistakes gives them confidence to understand that it's okay to fail safe and fall forward. Beautifully put, and you're absolutely right. NM says, my head is aching listening to you this evening because it is so true. Some of us are still broken, emotionally damaged because of this. My dad will say I am a witch, just like my mum. This is the lady who was abused verbally and physically till the union ended. It's a terrible experience. And I'm so sorry that you had that experience. And this is why I'm saying that, you know, what was done to us from our parents or people in authority, because I remember even teachers. You know, so I know I'm concentrating on parents, but I remember a teacher in class 4. I'm not going to mention the boy's name because I don't know where he is. I've not seen him since I finished primary school at the age of 12. And I remember this. I'm 50. And I remember this 38 years later. I remember her. She was a horrible teacher. I can't remember her name. But she was always angry. That's the one thing I remembered about this woman. And I remember her telling this boy off. I remember his name. And she said, foolish boy. And I just felt it was just so, to my young ears, I just felt it was a lot. Foolish boy. Why? Our words as adults to children. Hi, Jam. How are you, Jamal? Thank you very much for being on here. Princess says, yes, passive aggressive. Kiru, thank you for being on here, my sister. How are you doing? Sherelle says, my parents' negative energy, especially my mother, turned it into positivity. It took me a while, but it helped me a great deal when I decided to become a counsellor, and I had to be counselled myself and was able to offload. Also able to help others. Amazing. That is really, really good. And yeah, that's one thing with counsel. You have to, you know, be counselled yourself. I'm a coach and I have to go through coaching. Gertrude says, that's right. Kiru is clapping. Words are powerful, says Shirley Ann. Vika Addo says, very true. Yeah, Ewa, thank you for being on here. Copper says, amen. Ooh, Shell Roberts says, I used to be petrified of the saying, wait until your father comes home, or I'll give you something to cry about. Horrible. That's where the manipulation and the control comes in as well, and the fear. You know, so when they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me, I don't know which dumbass ever came up with that. I don't know which crazy person came up with that saying. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will always hurt you, without a doubt. Shirley Ann Safawati says, my dad told me when I was 15 that he believed in me. He has always boosted my spirit when I am down. That's excellent. And that's what good parenting should look like. You were really blessed, Shirley Ann, exactly. Augustina Chum, thank you for watching. Princess says, they say the same in Nigeria, so it might be an African thing. Body shaming comes naturally to people when telling you off or praising you. I dislike both with a passion. Yeah, it's not good. Beth says, Christopher Bishop, Kerry, I think you're inviting people on. Thank you so much. Dilys is a good friend. You might like these Sunday talks. Thank you so much. Thank you for those of you that are sharing. I really appreciate it. Kiri says, I made a conscious decision to be different from my parents' way of correcting mistakes because I didn't want my children to remember as I do. Some of the comments stay with us our entire lives. Absolutely. Shireen says, good for you, Dilys. Thank you so much. Carbo says, beautifully said. Faye Clinton, thank you for being on here. George Selikam, bless a couple. I have not seen that name before, so if you're new, thank you so much for being on here. Ronald says, great topic. I do the same thing you do. I always speak to my child first. God bless you. It's so important. Your child has got to have confidence in you and know that they can speak to you. Why should anybody be able to say, I saw your child doing this? You can't even ask your child? What's all that about? When we were growing up, my mum and dad had certain friends that took great pleasure in telling them, oh, we saw your daughter do it. And they were lies. Absolutely. I don't know why they got off on that stuff, but it was terrible. It was really terrible. Beth said, it's a wonderful feeling when you realize there are some bad patterns of behavior and interaction that you've managed to free your children from. Oh yeah, it's amazing. Denise says, and you will find that children who were not able to give their side of the story are suffering as adults today. In those days, if there was conflict between adults, they would maliciously tell lies on the children. That's exactly what used to happen. And you see, one thing as well that our parents didn't realize, which I found so bizarre, was they're telling on your children, but their kids are, not only are they worse, but they're not even the same caliber and level as your kids, but you don't see it. You want to join the bucket of crabs that have their children aren't doing anything to be proud of. And you've got kids that God has blessed so much with so much talent and what have you, and you're not seeing it. And these people are coming, so your child is this, your child is, and you're just latching onto every word. It's pitiful. Denise says, knowing that culturally the child won't be asked what happened. Yeah, absolutely. Not on my watch. Evelyn says, big sigh. I know, I feel you. I know there's a lot of people that this is resonating with. Tina France, thank you so much for being on here. Let me read some more because I have to conclude. I've got to wrap up now. I'm over my time. Princess, absolutely not allowed to have a voice. Speaking and listening is a planned session that happens twice daily in class. There's a reason for this. Confidence, respect, turn talking, listening skills, public speaking, etc. But children in Africa are only to be seen and not heard. Thanks, Dilys. We have to do better. Absolutely. Kimmy, thanks for being on here. Oh gosh, Kerry Herndon, thank you for being on here as well. Mimi Mensa, thank you for being on here. Ooh, guys, the comments are so many. William says, how does a parent rebuke a child without being verbally abusive? Very easily. The same way when your manager calls you in, you know what it's like to be, spoken to nicely when you've made a mistake. So your manager calls you into the office and says, oh, William, please come in, take a seat. You did this piece of work. What I would really like you to do is to do it this way. Your boss doesn't have to call you in and say, William, what's wrong with you? What do we pay you for? We're wasting our money. You're going to be out of a job if you don't fix up. We don't have to do that. And one thing I love about William, don't get William twisted. William asked these questions to enable me to go even deeper in an explanation, because some people, may be thinking, well, how do I do it? I've only known how to correct my child by screaming and shouting. I don't know how to have those softer conversations. Just have a conversation. Because discipline is about teaching. It is a teaching experience so that your child knows that this is what I need to do next time, and have them repeat back to you. That was one of the main reasons why when my son did anything wrong and he was reported to me, I would ask, what happened? Explain to me. There's times I do it with Isabel, where something happens and I'm like, she did something happened a little while ago. And I said, you were wrong. That is not the way to have gone about this situation. But I didn't just jump on straight away and start screaming and shouting. That's no good. Guys, I'm going to have to wrap up because if I follow your comments, we'll be here till next Sunday. But God bless you for commenting. Conclusion, recognize and admit it took place. Make no excuses. When you make excuse for the verbal abuse, you invalidate your experience and what you've been through. Don't invalidate it. Accept and admit that it happened. Am I saying that it's easy? No, it's not easy. I've always said it's very painful to hold up a mirror and say, right, this is what happened to me. That's why we don't ask people, what's wrong with you? What we ask is, what happened? They are two completely different questions and two completely different answers. One has a semblance of blame. The other is a detachment from self to situation. Yeah, where the person can say that happened to me, not what's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. What happened to me was wrong, but me, I'm good. Okay. Number two, what they said was an opinion. It was not fact. I repeat, for every single person, and I'm speaking to I'm speaking to the child in you. I'm not speaking to adults on this platform right now. In this moment, I want you to close your eyes if you have been a victim of verbal abuse. From what we've spoken about, I'm sure now you understand what the definition is. And if you experience it, and I just want you to close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to recognize the child in you. And I want to speak to that child in you this evening and just to say to you that, listen, you're not stupid. You're not ugly. You're not worthless. You're not a mistake. You being born was a blessing to the world because there is somebody's life in however many years you've walked on the face of this earth that you've made them smile. To somebody, you're the best thing that ever happened. You're not a bad child. You may have done some bad things or some naughty things, but you're allowed to make those mistakes. You're allowed to be, in quote, bad once in a while. But whatever you did not make you bad. You're not useless, you're useful. You're not ugly, you're beautiful. There is beauty inside you, there is beauty all around you because you're fearfully and you are wonderfully made. You're a child that is wanted. And just understand that sometimes, for whatever reason, we come through a passage that maybe we would not have chosen for ourselves, but we came through that particular avenue, i.e. that particular mother or that particular father for a reason. And because life is so intentional, you couldn't have come through there by mistake. Maybe we need to figure out why we came through that particular channel, but that wasn't a mistake. So that means you are not a mistake. The fact that your mother may have said to you that if I'd known I would have aborted you, well, thank God she didn't. Because for me, even having the opportunity to speak to you is a blessing for me. So I speak to that child in you, that you are of value and you are loved. You're not useless. You're not a waste of space. You're not hopeless. You're not a child who shouldn't have been born. Your very existence is what somebody somewhere has been waiting their whole life for. So as you grow into adulthood, start to offload the things that you were told, because you know what they were? They were just opinions. They were not fact. They were just an opinion. And yes, they were an opinion from somebody that should have known better, but it was just an opinion. It wasn't a fact. It wasn't a fact. And I'll prove it. For those of you that were told you were ugly, are you saying in all your years that nobody has looked at you and said, oh, you look lovely, I love what you're wearing, oh, this really suits you, you look nice? Has nobody ever appreciated you in your adulthood? Has no friend ever said, oh my goodness, you make me laugh, oh, I just don't know what I'd do without you? Pay attention to the fact and not the opinion. What did they say to you? But what do you say about yourself? What do others say about you? It was an opinion. It wasn't fact. What you experienced was your parents' dysfunction that they projected onto you. It was their dysfunction that they projected onto you, but you have the power to turn that around and to change your own destiny. The recovery process is difficult, but understand that it was not your fault. And I go back to speaking to that child in you. What did I do wrong? I'm so bad. How can I make it better? Let me tell you something. It was never your responsibility to make it better. And it was never your responsibility to prevent it. Your responsibility was just to be a child and be happy. That was all you were supposed to do as a child, was to just grow up in a safe environment. And the inability to be able to make that happen was never your responsibility. And what's not your responsibility, you can't be blamed for. So forgive yourself for not being able to make mummy and daddy happy to the point where, or that stepmother or stepfather, to the point where you were not on the receiving end of their abuse. It was an opinion. It was not fact. Forgive yourself. Forgive them. Recovery is a long road, but it starts with a decision. And yes, it also starts with you forgiving them. Forgiveness is a decision. It is not an emotion. Forgiveness is a decision. It is not an emotion. If you are not able to forgive and let it go, and forgiveness does not mean what they did was okay, was not important, or was so long ago so you just forget about it. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness does not invalidate pain. Forgiveness recognizes it and says, you know what? I take back my power. That's what forgiveness does. So it starts with a decision. So guys, that is the end of the 3rd episode of Speak With Dilys, where we have spoken about emotional abuse in childhood and how it affects us in adulthood. Guys, please share this video. Hopefully it will help somebody. I really do pray that you have not just enjoyed tonight, but that it has actually helped you to start your healing journey. And even if for nothing else, has enabled you to go back and think about certain things that have happened in your life as a child and compare it to the adult that you grew up to be, and that you are able to then start the healing process. Get help. Get help. I am a qualified and accredited life coach. If you would like to speak to me, my consultations are free. 30 minutes. Drop me a message in my inbox and let's talk. Let's take this conversation to the Speak With Dilys group. If you just if you go onto the group icon on your Facebook and just put in Speak With Dilys under groups, it will come up. Put your requests in, join the group, and let's have these deeper conversations. But I hope this evening has been helpful to you. Denise says, God bless you abundantly, dear sis. Sending you lots of love and hugs. Thank you so much. Rita says, thank you, sis. God richly bless you too. Tina says, another good one there. Thanks, Dilys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time, everybody. Joyce, thank you for the kisses. Bless you too, Nana Efrie. Margarita Cruz says, as a child, kids and adults will call me poodle because of my curly hair. Because of this, I only started to have my hair out when I was in my late 20s. So words are really powerful. They really are. And I really do hope that today that I can just leave you by saying that you are all beautifully and wonderfully made. There isn't anybody that is going to watch this that you're a mistake, or that you're not beautiful, or that you're useless. Every single one of you has a mandate that you are supposed to fulfill on this earth. What is challenging us is discovering what it is. When I was in church today, our apostle was talking about manifesting your glory. We need to be able to search within here and see, what is it that I have been endowed with, and how do I discover it? Maybe it's another topic that, we need to have. But guys, I am 24 minutes over. That is not good. So guys, God bless you. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope, as I said, that thank you very much for sharing, Faustina, that you are able to start your healing journey today. Possibly next week, I think I may need to do a session on forgiveness, because I had wanted to do a session on forgiveness and mental health and how the two correlate, but we'll see. I go and pray and I do whatever, but let's just have a moment, 2 seconds of prayer, because that's just how I feel led in my spirit right now. I know that I'm feeling there's a lot of people watching this that are hurting, and these broadcasts are not just for Christians. As you can tell, it's for everybody and anyone. But being a Christian, I pray. That I make no apologies for. So I'm going to pray now. Father God, in the name of Jesus, because that's the name I know. That's the name I know that is above every name. Father God, I pray in Jesus' name for those who have watched this evening and are hurting in any way. Father God, I pray that those who are watching, who have had any recollection of painful memories as children, that Lord, that you send them an angel. You send them somebody that can help them to begin their healing journey, that they can live their life free from emotional baggage and trauma. The Father, I pray that by your grace and by your power, the Lord, that they are able to forgive such that they don't hamper their healing journey by holding on to hatred or to resentment. And Father, I pray particularly for those people whose parents are not here, those who hoped for an apology or even recognition for the damage that had been done. But Father, you see all things. So I pray, Lord, that as you have healed me of many things, healed me from, the trauma of bereavement, of certain childhood things that I've even been through, disappointment in adulthood. I pray, Lord, that they will look at me and see that I'm no different and I am not special. But because you're no respecter of persons, as you have done for me, Lord, you will do for them. I pray in the name of Jesus that this week will be the week that is the beginning of liberty for these souls, that they will have a week of reflection without the pain. Father, I thank you, Father, even to be able to speak, I give you praise. And Father God, I pray that this week is a week of blessing for anyone that will watch this broadcast. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, guts to go. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next week. Take care, guys. God bless you.